Hello and welcome to our Christmas podcast. I'm Tucker Hixon.
And I'm Jessica Gallimore.
And today we'll be doing an overview of Christmas Vacation and how it can be viewed from different perspectives, and also go into a little bit of the psychological aspect of Christmas Vacation.
And we're going to be building a gingerbread house while we do it, which we'll show pictures of at the end. So first we wanted to just kind of discuss the movie itself for anybody that's maybe not seen it. It is a Christmas classic. We actually used to watch it on a VHS tape at my house, and we always watch it on Christmas Eve. That was our big tradition, is you have to watch Christmas Vacation to bring in Christmas. It's a comedy movie, as much as it is like kind of a heartwarming Christmas movie, but it kind of veers more on inappropriate and suggestive humor, and just silly shenanigans that the characters get into.
Yeah, it was released in 1989, and I believe it brought in $77 million at the box office that year. And it's remained popular from then until now, and it'll continue to be popular, I'm sure. And my experience with it was my parents intentionally cutting the inappropriate parts of it out.
I just didn't get explanation for it. I just thought, that's just what it is.
My young ears were not allowed to hear it.
Oh.
And normally watching it on the TV, it is already edited, but when we would put it in the DVD player, I would have to go away for a bit. At the end, when Clark receives his Jelly of the Month Club membership, because he is not pleased.
String of cuss words that follows.
It's just something that we both grew up on, and I think it's almost funnier to see our parents' reactions than it is to react to the movie ourselves, just because of the humor they find in the movie.
Yeah, my Uncle Jason quotes it a lot, and he could definitely be a character within the movie himself. He's just silly and goofy and funny. And a lot of people tend to identify with the movie, which we'll kind of get into more so, but I think you should bring up your point of view that you were going to talk about.
Well, going off of that, my parents quote the movie throughout the year as well. And, it's just something we do every Christmas, and it's something I'm sure we'll continue to do every Christmas. But, I'm going to go into a little bit of what my part of the podcast is, which is looking at it through a different lens, and that lens will be how not to host a Christmas party. And my source will be Trace Kingham. She owns a event planning service in Tampa, Florida, so she's pretty versed in how to host things and how to plan events. And planning family events is probably the most simple part of her planning services. She just goes through what not to do. And Clark is a great example of what not to do. She says, for instance, during the Christmas dinner, she says, Clark cuts into a beautifully browned turkey only to witness the overcooked bird implode. However, looks of disappointment and dismay around the table and the clearly ruined bird did not dissuade Clark from his perfect Christmas. He serves the desiccated poultry to his guests even as they struggle to gnaw on dried meat and drink copious amounts of water to get it down. It is a funny situation for the viewers, but in reality, Clark was so stuck on his plan that he lost the ability to be flexible and was unable to find an alternative. That's just one of the many things she says throughout her article, and she relates that back to a moment when her mother lost power to her oven as they were having a family event, and they were unable to have the meal that they had planned, but her mother was quick on her feet about the situation and made her family all peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, that's
a simple alternative.
Something like that happened in my family last year, or I guess 2 years ago now. My mom was sick with COVID during Christmas, so it was up to me and my dad to fix Christmas dinner, and we always have prime rib on Christmas Day, and my dad and cooking do not go together, but he was in charge of the meat, and I was in charge of everything else, and darned if he didn't drop that prime rib all over the oven door and just ruin it, and ruin the oven door. It still has stains to this day. Just destroyed it, plopped it right on its back. So I don't remember what we ended up doing as an alternative. I think we were also going to have ham that year along with it, and I think we just had that, but we kind of just were like, well, it's a funny Christmas memory. The one year Mom's not here to help. That's what happened, so.
Yeah, no plan is ever a perfect plan. And even if it is a perfect plan, it's going to go wrong. And there's many parts of the movie where that does happen.
Yeah, I feel like they don't, they kind of roll with the punches more than try to find alternatives in the movie. Like the thing about the Christmas tree, instead of...
You could go from scene to scene. The Christmas tree, the lights not working.
Yes.
If it doesn't happen exactly the way Clark has envisioned,
he's just going to keep hammering at it until it does work for them, even though it ends up, like, destroying their property for most of the movie. And that's, like, the whole thing, is the house is just demolished by the end.
Even in his head, it's perfect to the point where he even has the family create a drum roll when he's going to light up the house.
Lord.
So, after going into a little bit of Trace Kingham's article and how Clark is a perfect example of what not to do, we're going to throw it over to Jessica and let her talk about the psychological aspect of the movie and how we relate ourselves to characters in the movie itself.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys have been able to tell from our dialogue we've had so far, but both of us find commonalities within our family and can relate it to the Griswolds and everything that they go through in the movie, which is actually something that's explored in psychology because a lot of people relate to the events that happen in the movie as well as the characters themselves. Something called identity, like actual psychological identity, was created by a famous psychologist called Erik Erikson. And he basically came up with the idea that people try to attach themselves to things, to ideas, to movements, in order to find similarities with other people and kind of common ground, something that they can relate on. Further into my research, I have found this article that was written by D.P. McAdams. It's on the website Pressbook, and it talks about autobiographical reasoning, which is when people go back and they describe events that have happened in their life, or they describe things about themselves, and they narrate it on their perspective. And a lot of times people will add things to their story to kind of flesh it out, even if it's not exactly how it happened. They'll usually kind of embellish it a little bit to make it more exciting than what it was. But I think I saw the connection between those two things, especially with a movie like Christmas Vacation, where so many people relate to the events in the movie, about how we try to grab onto something and say, oh, well, that my family's just like that too, or I'm just like that, or I'm literally this character, or you wouldn't believe the Christmases that we have at my house. And then they also fall into the autobiographical reasoning by embellishing their stories the way that they do.
Yeah, kind of relating to embellishing stories and such, it kind of reminds me of the old fishing trick when you catch a 2-pound fish and it's 6 pounds by the time you get home, and then it's 10 pounds the next month, and it just keeps getting worse.
Yeah.
But in popular culture, we do seem to relate ourselves to people we see, and when you talk to people about their family or holidays or anything, everyone thinks their family is the craziest, and I think that just goes to show that everyone's family is unique and everyone's family is different, and there's so many characters out there in the world that we'll never meet them all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. But no, I know, like, we fall guilty a lot. The scene in the movie where Cousin Eddie brings a dog to the house and the dog starts eating the garbage and starts throwing up underneath the table. My parents automatically, when somebody brings up Christmas Vacation, oh my gosh, you wouldn't believe it. Our dog Ginger threw up underneath the table at Thanksgiving one time. It reminded us so much of that movie. so just that quick jump to try to relate things. But I also see it that it could be a real positive thing. Like, that's how you make connections with people, and that's how you relate. And I think people use things such as movie taste to tell a lot about your character. So kind of identifying yourself with a movie like Christmas Vacation is very telling to other people, and it can definitely be like a conversation starter.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Having conversations like that can even add to stories, and just goes to the uniqueness of us all. And when you start telling stories like that, you just start bouncing off of each other, and you have a great conversation. So movies like this can start conversations and can just get you going down a trail, and you don't know where it's going to lead.
Absolutely. And then, just the thing with the traditions as well, it creates something to flesh out your holidays and to, unite each other. Like I said, like we always, all three of us, we have to watch Christmas Vacation, Christmas Eve night. Even when I was a little kid, it was, well, we better start the movie now because, Santa Claus can't come if we watch it too late. So I really do think that this movie adds a lot to us as people, and also just our American Christmas culture in general.
Yeah, going off of traditions, you watching it every Christmas Eve, my family's quite different. The Christmas season just seems to keep getting longer and longer,
Yeah.
especially with consumerism trying to start sales sooner and such and get people to buy. But, as soon as it starts coming on TV, my family's watching it. It's probably watched all the way through at least 5 times every Christmas season.
My parents were watching it last night.
And we laugh at it just the same the first time as we do the 5th time.
Yeah, it becomes more nostalgic than anything. But I think we're about out of time here, so thank you so much for listening to our podcast. We wish we had more time, but
it was exciting to look at the movie through a different lens and get Jessica's psychological aspect of the movie for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll both be watching the movie here shortly, and we're going to laugh all the same as we did the first time we watched it. But as for right now, we're going to continue building this gingerbread house and hope it doesn't collapse.
I know, yeah, it's not looking too swift, but thank you again.